Hey folks, Rob here. So I'm going to show you guys the vlog of what happened when I redid my Red Factory Solitaire playthrough. The first one I made a couple of errors that was really pointed out by some of the viewers, and this one is going to be a rehash of the first turn and a half. So I'm going to do all the way up until the German turn 2, and then we'll carry on live probably tomorrow when this video comes out. So if you look at my setup, you can see that there's now at least two hexes visible, or cleared of enemy, I should say, on the board edge for the German entry points, which is right. Um, Places like this here, C1 in this rubble, again, depending on the type of terrain and what I roll, this is not considered victory point objective. Only the stone rubble and stone buildings are, so it does not, if I don't roll a ground floor result, there's not going to be any suspect there. So it's actually cleaned up this whole area here and a little bit here as well. So yeah, let's just walk through the action. I'll turn off the camera and we'll see what happens. All right, so first things up, of course, is we're in the rally phase. So the setup is exactly the same as the last one. The only thing that's different is I think I reorganized my left flank a little bit, and I put more assets here up at the top just so that they can push down into this way and clear out this area here. So let's advance it through. So first things first is we have our OBA that comes down first. And of course, I draw a red shit. So there goes my AR where I was going to drop a smoke barrage, and of course that doesn't happen. So that goes away. And then we go right into the movement phase. To start moving on and start activating units right away, I make up my little sheets here so that I can remember what to do certain actions. It was pretty good in the first turn. I didn't activate that much. This right there is going to prove interesting. The fortified building location with the leader. Of course, it's always with the leader. Luckily, there was no support weapon, but my half squad scouts did do their job. So this is where I'm looking to see long range activation from the rooftops, and they will have a chance, but of course I don't do it. You can see right there. So I activated a gun in that location, which of course is probably not the best given where it lies. However, I'm able to bring the rest of my forces on from the north now, and I start activating more units there. Now, those reason why those black suspects in the open aren't really activating is because, again, when you look at the shell hole I'm in, plus the debris, and I'm 3 hexes away, I need to be within 2 to be at a +2. So using assault movement, most of those guys are not going to be activated right now, which is going to prove interesting again in the Russian turn. And of course, one of my tanks panicked when it came on. It seems to be the trend that when you want your force to come on, that they start to panic. Now, I know some guys that play with it does not panic, but again, rules is written. You're supposed to roll for panic before entering the map board. Again, I started activating fortifications. Now, the biggest difference between this one and the first replay, or first playthrough, is that I generated, I think it was 6 fortifications already just on the first day, which seems a lot. And of course, they're all protected by 458s because I was really rolling a lot of 458s, which is a huge difference from Battle of the Guards, where your first units are primarily 426s by and large, maybe some second line 628s, but definitely not a lot of 458s. And of course, I bring up a 45 long or double long. Luckily, the it was my half squad in K0 that or R0 that activated him, so I don't have to worry about losing my tank today. But I do have another tank coming on. Luckily, the gun's fired, and therefore it'll be out of shots. All right, here comes a big stack. Again, they're looking right down the barrel of that 45. I probably should have moved them individually. All right, I started advance firing some units, trying to activate certain things, get some acquisition and such, but by and large, it was pretty bad. You can see right there, I broke the coax on my tank. Not that great. Again, I'm starting down the barrel of 45 double long. And of course, the 9-2 and the 4-5 building on the left does a bang up job. Well, only the one half squad, but again, this 4-5-8 with a 9-2 in a fortified wood location is just not something I really was expecting. All right, I start advancing onto the map proper now. The units that have not entered yet start splitting up, and I start spreading out my units because it gets really dangerous when, again, 45 and a 9-2 leader. I start moving real close up to the 9-2, so I'm adjacent now. Again, with solitaire rules, I know that in his prep fire phase on the Russian turn, he's going to be forced to fire at one of these two units, which is really great. Same with this guy here. By throwing out a concealed 5-4-8 in rubble, I'm only going to be taking a 4 up 2 attack versus having an 8 up 2. So in this, same with this guy here, it's going to be a 4 flat, which gives me some protection, and hopefully I can withstand it long enough to cause some damage to him. All right, no close combat the first turn. We go to the Russian rally phase, and what's the first thing I roll? Of course, is a random event. So again, solitaire they have a 5, 6, and 7 because it's a campaign game. Normally, it's only one or two numbers. However, with a solitaire campaign game like this one and Battle of the Guards, it's always going to be 3, and that's at the upper end. So a 5, 6, or 7, and they get a random event, which I roll. Of course, is a local counterattack, which means all these units here are checked for activation. And yeah, so let's see what happens. All right, so all the yellows come down and they start, some of them start disappearing, or I should say activating. So again, you're going to see all these guys come change to advanced attitude, and they get activated right away, and then they just start moving in the normal prep fire moving phase. All right, so now we can start doing some rallies. I don't have any self rallies because mine are all squads, and all my rallies fail. All right, so they also get an FFV on the prep bar phase. So once more, it's part of the solitaire rules for the campaign. Every prep fire and defensive fire phase, I make a roll. And if it's a 14-15 or 62-63, then that random event happens, which is an OBA. So the first one is a 150. It doesn't land here. I'm just writing down the label here, but it lands somewhere over here, and then it deviates to land on the Russian troops. And when that happens, automatically it gets switched to a cancellation. So that's where it lands, and then of course it deviates from there. I rolled a oh, I flipped them around. I should have gone the other way. I should have gone 6 for 3. Instead, I went 3 for 6. Yeah, I gotta be consistent on that. So the colored die is typically the distance, white die is direction. So I messed that up. It should have gone this way over here for 3. Still will not have affected anything. However, it would not be gone. And again, because it landed in amongst troops, I just canceled it. The minute the its silhouette outnumbers the friendly, then it gets canceled. Again, I could have switched to smoke as well, but it's also 150. All right, so now the Russians start doing some shooting. I put all my advanced guys into, most of them have move commands, which of course, because I don't have my reinforcements coming on, they're going to start occupying all these locations here and engaging my units that are on the map already. Luckily for me, the gun missed. Yeah, there I rolled a 9. That's not a small target. That should have hit. I messed up again. It should be a base 10 because it's only 4 hexes away. That should have been a hit. Or maybe I hit and I didn't pen. All right, so the second one was to kill. Oh yeah, for the 45 long, I guess I didn't roll enough to pen it, so that was good. I guess I didn't mess up. Hmm. Right, all these EPs you're seeing, these are the action die rolls for the enemy panic. So pivot my gun and I fire, and of course I break it on the first shot, which is huge because last thing I want is be staring down that barrel at 75. And again, another Russian unit panics just when it's point blank. So, reminder from my tutorial on solitaire: when you panic, the only action you can do, it's much like being TI. So there's no shooting, no moving, advancing, and the only thing you're allowed to do is defensive first fire as an option because it's his turn. It basically means he's going to sit there and do nothing. So I save myself a 4 up 2 shot. All right, now we're into the moon phase. So my advanced units for the Russians are starting to push forward, occupying that house. Again, they're just going to keep that northern area secured, which makes it more difficult when I have to bring my reinforcements on. So I finally get in the Russian turn, I draw black finally. So if you're keeping track between the initial playthrough and this replay, that's 5 fire phases, of which I've only drawn a black twice. So, really not the best record when the first die roll out of the game is a red chip. So I decide because it's a pre-registered hex in this location that I'll be able to drop an FFE1 directly, and then my intent is on my turn 2 is I'm going to adjust it over to these guys and land amongst them. So, all right, and we start clearing out some more suspects. Luckily for me, I rolled poorly for activation, a lot of 4s. Now, it would be a -1 for being in stone, but all these ones in open or debris basically got disappeared, and they're over here on the left. Right now, I go through my defensive fire phase, and I start blasting the Russian units. Luckily for me, again, another 4-2. It's only 4-2-6, but still, it's one less fire attack that I have to endure. I only have to deal with a 45, which again failed to pin my tank here when it shot. I probably should have rolled twice on the kill, but I think I may have actually messed that one up. I think that 9 should have been a hit. Not sure why I missed on that one. All right, I do a poor piss poor job of shooting up that 9-2. Even though I have the advantage, I drop my concealment, I fire these guys, and yeah, nothing. Right, so not much in the way of Russian advancing fire. Yeah, they broke, yeah, they broke one of my units here, but luckily I got a wall advantage, even though they are sitting in a house. Um, it's something, I suppose, but they'll be able to route away to freedom. And I do end up moving to, I think, C1 routing for there. All right, so now we're into the route phase and moving the attacker first. So I start moving those guys away. Right, so this is where I realized I now have LOS to him, which means I have to come into this open X and then into C1. Actually, no, I think I realized that would be moving closer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I would be moving closer to the 9-2, which means I'd have to stay where I was. But again, I'm in a shell hole, so it's not failure to route. I'm trying to figure out my route path for that DM'd unit there. I think I move him into N0. Yeah. All right, then the Russians start to advance upon me. Things are getting a little bit dicey up here, but again, I'm going to have my reinforcements come on and deal with that. But it was unexpected to get this random event at the beginning of turn one. If you remember my first playthrough, we had reinforcements coming in from the bottom right. Now it's going to be a local counterattack, and they're really going to be pressing me hard. Again, I only have half of my forces on the board at this time. All right, jump into melee with a half squad, which I cannot. No, I think I kill it. Can't remember. All right, so there you go. I killed a half squad, and now I'm left facing a tank with no supporting ground infantry around it, and he's sitting in a shell hole, so it's not going to be a good way to start off. On the plus side, I've acquired him twice, so it's going to be a good shot if I can hit him, but it's only a 50 long, so it's again, I'm really overexposed with my tank here, but once more, I'll be able to bring my reinforcements on in the next turn. All right, so start laying out my troops. All right, so now we do the prep fire. Again, I'm looking to see if I got line of sight to this location here. Again, I'm on the second level. This is only 1.5, so I should be able to see over that into this location with all blind hexes, etc. So because they're not concealed, I'm able to drop an FFE into K3. FFE2. So there it goes. Actually, no, I'm off by 1, so it comes forward for 1, so that's pretty good. Not too bad. OBA has really been a miss for me this whole game. And then when we get to the Russian defensive fire, they're going to start bringing in another artillery. All right, so a lot of panic going on. And my prep fire, again, this time I'm lucky enough to break the 9-2, and I pin the 4-5-8, so I'll be able to enter close combat this turn. Yeah, I pinned the 6-8, so I mean, it's not broken, but at least it has less of a chance of attacking my units here. All right, so now we get into the movement phase proper, and we start bringing things on. I decide to send my half squad scout to try and bust some concealment, and boy, does he. All right, so we got a K on the. I rolled a snake eyes for the IFT result, so yeah, they're dead. This was interesting because again, I have a stack here, and it's not the best idea because if I move on, all they're going to do is fire at me. It doesn't help that this guy's fanatic. Um, but I have to get onto this board somehow and deal with these units that are in advance. Luckily, all the first fire missed. I was able to retain concealment, although they did drop a 2 residual in that location. I fired twice. I probably didn't have to, but because again, rules are written, they're still in good order. Um, they should have to keep firing. So now we're bringing on the rest of my guys. I think my plan is to jump into close combat with some units, or else I'm going to come into H0 here and try and avoid into that residual fire. Oh, maybe not. So I take a 2 residual fire. Now I have to roll task checks for each of these units to see if they're going to final protective fire, and they all fail. Again, you're looking at the modifiers, and although a 6 is less than their 7, because again you're looking at a +2 and they're concealed, that 6 would actually be a fail. Same with that 6 there. Alright, so no final protective fire from those guys. I do it from here, which paves the way for these guys to move into those locations. So I got really lucky on the defensive fire. It really wasn't very effective. Alright, so then I spawned a 76 long right here just before my tank's about to come on, which of course is not the greatest. Now, luckily for me, because whatever activates this unit has to be within the covered arc, it's yeah, so it's got to be this unit here that's covered in the arc. Now I still have to bring this tank on, and the last thing again I want to do is face down an APCR from a 76 long. But again, the final fires. Not the squad itself. It's only 426, so that would have been like a 2 firepower attack, and not worth it. So I didn't take that shot yet. And then I decide, okay, I've got 5 for ace with 2 smoke exponent, drop smoke, and that'll help save my tank from that 76 long should he decide to intensive fire. So luckily I was able to then dash across the road into this location again because everybody here was final fired. I did not have to worry about any kind of activation. All right, and then lastly I bring on my tank. Not very far. They're basically going to go to this location here, and then I have to start spreading out so that I can take all these shots and not get destroyed myself in the process. All right, now I'm bringing on the rest of my forces up in the north. So I was able to bring units underneath, so now I can deal with this directly. They're still concealed because of the shell hole and protection offered by the tank. All right, so that was the sniper, goes 1 for 1. So at least I triggered that. Again, suspects are not sniper bait. It has to be on the nearest squad. So I was able to deviate onto this location here. Which, one less thing to worry about, is a functioning squad in that location. And I finally bring on the last of my units now. Of course, one squad decided to stay off because he panicked. So it's not a clean entry, that's for sure. Right, half squads acting up as targets for the units to shoot at. Now, luckily for me, I do have an out into this location because it's the same distance. I'm not closing it, so I'm able to enter into this woods rubble because these units here will keep me from routing to a T0 or actually have a leader that could do it. Of course, he'd be overstacked, but All right, so this is an FFE one that can come in on the Russian defensive fire phase. Now, when you're only allowed to have two different kinds of FFEs at any one time. So I had to specify which one was the 150 and kept that one off, and the other one's a 70 millimeter OBA. And again, I target this location here, but it ends up landing off board. So that's where it lands. So it's going to be an FFE. That should be an FFE2 actually. And I'm going to do an automatic correction from this location. So there's no guarantee it's even going to land on the board at all, unless I roll a 4, and it could land in this area, but it could also just continue off board, which I would probably prefer. Right, so I start to do some damage to these Russians now that are here in the open. Again, this guy here has wall advantage to this guy, but I've got wall advantage to this guy. I believe I did that correctly. And I start firing back at the artillery gun before it can shoot me. Now again, because it's my turn, as long as I have a unit that's adjacent to this unit, he will have no choice but to fire on the unit. So I believe I move one of these guys up into the rubble here to absorb that shot. Right, so I managed to break the crew of the 45, which was really great. It kept me alive a little bit longer. All right, so I start doing some more damage to the Russians. Of course, I'm breaking myself. Now we get to the rout phase. So now I have to move again because um, I cannot come to this location. Those guys should be failure to rout or surrender, I think. Or maybe I moved to, yeah, I think I moved to D0. Yep, yep. All right. Which again, because the shell hole is not open ground, so they are safe. Of course, my 9-2 has to run out of the building, which means I'm now able to jump into close combat with that 458. All right, so now I jump in. Again, I throw a 548 up front because it has to take this shot. Otherwise, he's going to nuke my tank. Again, it's called self-preservation. As long as there's an adjacent enemy unit, that's going to be their target. So, assuming the 426 does not kill the 548 in the next prep fire, then the artillery will be free to fire at the tank. But if the 426 fails to fire at the 548, then the gun's going to have to fire at it. Right, plus some more dummy counters, some activated, some not. And again, I start spreading out my forces. I do jump onto the one squad here. I do have these guys here as well. My intent is to jump on them as much as possible. Yeah. So basically, we got 3 combats happening right here, which if I lose all of these, that's 6 squads that are gone just like that. And of course, keep my leader back here. Not sure why. I probably should have thrown him in the combat anyways. Once more, I start spreading out. I do jump onto this 447, 1-to-1 odds. I figure why not? No ambush because it's only debris. But hopefully I can take him down. Alright, now we go into close combat. So then we start resolving those. That's an ambush roll. So I do get ambush in, I believe it's this location here is the first one I think I did. Yeah, yeah. So because I rolled a 1, and I'm also with I'm just a 1, but he's at a +2 because his pin, or no, +1 because his pin. So I do have ambush, and I hand to hand him with my 10 to 4, 2 to 1 odds. I was able to take him out. Right. Again, we have no ambush in these locations. It's straight up close combat. Some success, some not. So in this case, I managed to take him out. Here, I'm still locked in melee. All right, this time I side for hand to hand because I'm at 8 to 6. I figured it's not even 3 to 2, so it's um, 1 to 1 odds. I needed a 5, so I went for a hand to hand instead, which may end up biting me in the ass because hand to hand really favors the weaker side in a close combat. It's much more worthwhile for them to try hand to hand than it would be with my firepower. But I figured, what the heck, give it a try, and of course I failed. And there we have it. Yeah, so that was the playthrough that I did on the side. Again, after those comments from Arcana and the rest of you guys, I realized I'd played a couple things wrong. Now, so I put the poll up, and it was 13 votes, and 7 decided for the vlog. So I'm going to play this one. But I am really leaning towards George Hoitis' comment about the no going back rule, 8.2, which, in all fair play, is it makes sense. I've already passed that point, so I'm still up in the air, to be honest. We'll let this go out tonight, and then you guys let me know in the comments. Again, maybe a last minute gasp will get a couple more votes in. That'll really decide. But I think I'm kind of leaning towards continuing that initial playthrough. Again, they're both relatively the same areas, except this one here, I had a local counterattack. The other one had reinforcements, which more than likely are not going to be entering play because come turn 5, I start rolling for game end. And I think they're only down in this area at the end of their turn 2. So they're not even going to be up into this area by the end of the Russian turn 2, which means they may not even make it into the battle. But one thing I did do is I recounted from this side, and I launched them in from this area here, so they're able to come up more northly directly, and therefore they might actually make it into the battle. But again, that's up in the air. I really haven't decided, even though you guys voted to continue with this one. Hopefully it's been informative for you. Again, let me know in the comments what you think. If that's changed anybody's mind and which one they want to see. And we'll see you guys next video. Or actually see you guys live tomorrow night. Bye.